Hello again, everyone. It's been a while since I've done a Google trotting video. I used to call these Google trotting because this is Google Earth, of course, and it is a reliable instrument. It is representing the Earth, and that's the point of this video, actually, is although it is, that's the thing that always gets me. Although it is completely different than what most of us recall, it still is unusually similar to the Earth, at least I recall, which was 4 times the size of this Earth at least, maybe more. It even had a continent on the North Pole called Antarctica. And here we could see no continent whatsoever, Greenland nearby, and northern Canada and Siberia, and some islands and whatnot. But you can almost see that ridge in the middle there could, in who knows, millions, hundreds of millions of years, become a continent as this Earth grows. And that's another thing, the Mandela effect's revealing that the Earths do grow. But the point of this video is the fact that this Earth, I'll try to keep it north as much as possible, the fact that this Earth has always been here. This reality has always been here. There's no denying that. It has, similar history. Of course, there's variations and differences, but as quantum entanglement would have it, the outcome always remains the same of any geopolitical situation. But the fact is it's always been here. So what does that tell us? It tells us, quite frankly, I know there's no empirical evidence, but we have our own memories and our own recollections and whatnot. But it tells us, obviously, that this is a completely different reality that has always existed, that we have always existed in. I mean, it's very obvious. It can't be more obvious than that. It's the Mandela effect showing us this. It's not me telling you this. But this Earth has always existed. This reality has always existed. We are always in this reality. So what does that tell us? It tells us that there's different realities in the same dimension. I'm not denying there's other dimensions. Of course there is. But they're parallel too, apparently. But this is telling us that there's obviously other realities. How many there could be? I mean, I think it's infinite, personally. This galaxy can hold tens, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of planets, exoplanets. They're finding several, so many. But how many of those are Earths with different realities? Too far to interact with. It would be impossible. And even if we did, then the replica version of yourself that's in that other reality that you're interacting with would be in this reality. So it's sort of kind of like what the Mandela effect's doing, but it's doing it on a spiritual level. It's only our souls are being allowed to enter these other realities that we've always existed in, telling us too that our soul is very complex. It's splintered and fractured, but yet still one. It's one individual you. But it's proving too that it's essential for life. Without this parallel existence on a multitude of Earths and a multitude of realities, we would not even exist. It's that quantum entanglement. It always comes down to the quantum entanglement. And that's what the amazing thing that the Mandela effect is showing us. Because we cannot dispute the fact that this reality and this Earth and this portion of the Milky Way galaxy has always existed. There's no doubt about it. There's not one single solar system with an Earth orbiting that particular sun in the entire galaxy. Obviously, there's who knows how many. Like I said, I think it's infinite. Because the galaxies are obviously parallel as well. So I always like to think that when you're looking up at Orion or any constellation, let's just say Orion's belt, those 3 predominant stars. Now, I would imagine that each of those have Earths orbiting them with us there. And they're looking up at the constellation from their perspective of, say, Orion's belt, and they're looking at our sun as one of the stars in the belt of Orion. Even the constellations are parallel. Think about it. It's amazing. Obviously, they are because they're here. They're albeit different, but still constellations, none the same. Now, this has always fascinated me, that this whole side of the Earth, it's not obviously half the Earth, but at least 1/3 or better is the Pacific Ocean. That's crazy. Uh, I obviously, again, this is a different Earth. Obviously, this Earth has always been here. There's Because everyone else around us, they're not experiencing the Mandela effect, so to them everything is exactly as it should be, and it has always been. But for us, those of us experiencing this incredible spiritual event, is it's not the same. It's not. Important thing too is to realize it's not, things are not changing, they're just different. This is just different than the reality we recall. The reality we recall is still in existence. We know nothing could have happened to it. It's impossible because of that quantum entanglement. Perhaps the solar system with the Earth we recall could be calving, the Sagittarius arm could be calving. That could be what's causing the Mandela effect. But that reality still exists, because the calving process no doubt takes eons. And it's happening enough to a point where it's creating and causing the Mandela effect. Again, I've always believed it doesn't matter who perpetrated the Mandela effect, if it was CERN or it doesn't matter. It's still revealing the same thing. And I know it couldn't possibly be those human organizations or experiments and things like that could be causing it. It's impossible, because it's revealing things that those the gatekeepers do not want us to know. But it always amazes me to look at these. I call them Orion dwarf Earths, and I call the Earth I recall the Sagittarius super Earth. But again, as I was alluding to before, is that reality still exists. Because if something happened to it, then something would have happened to this reality. It's that quantum entanglement. The Earths are all still here in the Milky Way galaxy with each reality. But, and how many of those realities we're in is unknown. We know that we possibly do not exist in some realities simply because of, look at Nelson Mandela. I bring that up all the time. It's a perfect namesake for this phenomenon, simply because it proves that he did not survive or continue on and be liberated from prison and ascend to presidency of South Africa in every reality. We know this. I personally haven't experienced this portion of my soul, that I'll always have, that I was born with, experienced a reality where he perished in prison. But I know that I'm in those realities. It's just oblivious to it. But it's interesting to realize that we're in all those realities. But again, no matter what, I always bring this up, that regardless of whether he perished in prison or ascended to presidency of South Africa, the geopolitical situation in South Africa remains the same regardless. President or martyr, doesn't matter. But that's that quantum entanglement. Even a predominant figure like Nelson Mandela would not change the future events because they're all set. Basically, that's another thing about the Mandela effect. It's just, I've never was a believer in destiny, but obviously destiny does exist simply because of what the Mandela effect's revealing. There's the motions of existence have already been set. The wheels of motion of the wheels have been set and going, and not saying things are predetermined, but in a sense they are, because that's what the amazing thing about the Mandela effect is. I liken it to a roll of film. Without the film there wouldn't be a movie. Without quantum entanglement there wouldn't be life. And each frame in that roll of film represents a reality. And so it's always in motion. There's always a reality that's ahead of you, and there's always a reality that's behind you. There's no lead portion of your existence that's setting things in motion. It's continuous, like a never, well, the loop or the movie, regardless of how long it may be, your life expectancy and whatnot. But it's amazing. It's constantly in motion. That, you know, there's so many. I mean, I mentioned it to Mary Hall, a friend of mine. I'm her caregiver because she's, recovering from a stroke. But I was just telling her the other day, that it's amazing to think, that there's, you know, but basically everything I've always wondered about, I was mentioning to her, has been answered. And I mention it in many videos. Everything I've ever wondered about has been answered by what I'm experiencing with the Mandela effect. That things like, why do we get deja vu? How is that possible? Why do we need REM sleep? Without it, we wouldn't function. Why do we get jet lag and things like that? All have been answered by what the Mandela effect's revealing, because it clearly proves that there are realities that are ahead of us, like I mentioned, and some that are behind us at all times. And that's every one of you, the replica versions of yourself, playing out and choreographing the symphony of your life. There's no lead, there's no one in the tail end, there's no one in the beginning. It's all a loop and constantly in motion, just like the roll of film. And that's the things like that the Mandela effect are revealing. And once you realize that and inculcate it into your heart and believe it and understand it, it makes a huge difference in your life. There's nothing you can do about your life. You got to keep carrying on, of course, but knowing the Mandela effect and you're experiencing and what a privilege it is, and understanding what it's revealing, and not pointing fingers and not being homesick and things like that, it's actually quite remarkable. But if you are pointing fingers and you are homesick and things like that, then every replica version of yourself that's been sharing your soul since the day you were born and experiencing Mandela effect as you are going to be thinking the same thing. And it just escalates and gets worse. But if you think the opposite of it and take it for what it really is, there's nothing we can do about it. We might as well enjoy the ride, because you shouldn't be homesick, because you've always been here. This is your home, regardless of what reality you're in. It is your home. You've always been here. So it's really quite remarkable when you look at it that way. So anyway, I'm going to end this video. I don't know how long it's been going here. And I appreciate you watching. I enjoy talking about the Mandela effect. And forgive me for hashing over things I've talked about before. But really, there's nothing else to it. There's other than the, things I've repeated over and over. And that's, basically where this channel, talks about the Mandela effect in a very positive way. So with that, I thank you for watching, and we'll Google trot at you later. Love you.